my name is Holly Budge. I am an adventurer and a passionate conservationist. I'm the founder of How Many Elephants UK registered charity and the founder of Wildlife Positive Travel, my tour operator, which I'm sure we'll come on to today, and founder of World Female Ranger Week. And I'm based in the UK at the moment.
When we last spoke to you, your episode came out March 26th, 2019. But during that episode, we did talk about a couple of your world records. The first woman to skydive from Mount Everest, racing 1,000 kilometers across Mongolia on horseback, summiting Mount Everest in 2017. You also shared more on that podcast episode about sort of your career and what you've been up to and the training involved and the crazy adventures with wild horses and first ascents in Western Mongolia, and also making the decision you shared more about your plans for 2019, but to move to New Zealand. So I suppose take us back to 2019. I'm always like 2020.
Yeah, that feels a different lifetime ago, Sarah. Still doing similar, still working on my charity, which I was back then. But yeah, I think the world changed.
And were you living in New Zealand at that point then? Had you already moved over?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. So my husband is a New Zealander. So we were living in Franz Joseph, which was incredible. He was a helicopter pilot. So we kind of went to quite remote places, but Franz Joseph was pretty out there. It was like a 4-hour round trip to go to a supermarket. So when I spoke to you, I would have been training for the coast to coast because I just figured if I'm going to be in the middle of nowhere, just get fully immersed, have a big adventure goal. And that's what I did in February 2020 was coast to coast.
Do you just want to quickly explain what coast to coast is for people who may not be familiar with it?
It's a crazy race. It's very famous in New Zealand. It's cycling, kayaking, and running. I learnt kayak especially for it. I have a fear of fast moving water. So kayaking 70 kilometers down the Waimakariri Gorge was absolutely terrifying. I think it's 243 kilometers from the ocean in Greymouth to the ocean in Christchurch through the Southern Alps.
Beautiful, beautiful part of the world. How did you get over your fear of water?
I just threw myself into it. I did a training course. You had to have a grade 2 kayaking certification to even take part in the coast to coast. And then there was this beautiful lake right next to where I was living in Franz Joseph. It wasn't like white water or rapids, but I would just go out on the boat for like 3-4 hours. And actually, Sarah, your Tough Girl podcast kept me going. I was in the middle of nowhere, feeling a little bit exposed on this kayak, thinking, no one really knows I'm out here. And every time I went out, I was listening to the Tough Girl podcast. So thank you for that. And I just kept doing it, I suppose, and just got my confidence up. But I was terrified. When I did the actual race, I fell out twice. One of those times was really annoying because it was just a photographer, but I thought he was calling me over and he was just waving at me. So I tried to get over to him and I was just like, don't do that. Don't be breaking my concentration just for a photo. I literally kayaked solidly for 5.5 hours and I just got really I just went through so many different emotions in that 5.5 hours. And you have to pee in your boat as well. That felt a little bit weird.
All the random things that you get to do. And was this solo or were you part of a team for this one?
So I did it solo. I went all out and did it on my own. It probably would have been much easier having someone there doing it with me. Yeah, and my mum came over, which was amazing. She was one part of my support crew. So just knowing that my mum was at those checkpoints was a huge motivation as well to get there.
While you're doing this training, while you're getting ready for the coast to coast, you have been working on this it's a charity, isn't it?
Yeah,
The How Many Elephants.
yes.
Do you want to
Yeah.
share more about the charity and how that's been growing and developing and what's been happening?
Yeah, absolutely. So that all came about when I was doing a master's in 2013 in Brighton in the UK. And I was studying a material called vegetable ivory, which is a really cool. It's got a cool story on its own, but it's a nut from a palm tree from South America. But it was its material similarity to elephant ivory that got me researching the African elephant crisis. And I was just so horrified by the data, the statistics of 96 elephants being poached each day in Africa for their ivory, that I wanted to use my skills as a designer, as a graphic designer, to create a fresh awareness raising campaign. So I built this great big necklace. It's 96 elephants cut in vegetable ivory to show the daily poaching rate in Africa. It's won 6 design awards so far. And then to accompany the necklace is my exhibition that's now traveled all over the world since we last spoke. And that showcases 35,000 elephants on a wall to show the annual poaching rate. So the whole thinking, Sarah, with my campaign is it's non-gruesome, it's non-gory. I'm just visualizing the data. But when you see it, it hits home pretty hard. So yeah, that's still going strong. And then that led to patrolling on the front line with female rangers, which I know we're going to come on to. And that is a whole different type of adventure. My definition of adventure has changed massively in the last few years.
So we'll come on to those in a second. Just want to go back to the elephants. How have things changed with the elephants? Have things improved? Has the needle been moved? Like, are there any like results?
Yeah, great question. I get asked that a lot. So the new figure is 55 elephants a day, which is still utterly horrendous, but better than 96. So people think this is great. Poaching numbers have come down, which they definitely have. But what's not spoken about in that same sentence is human elephant conflict has gone through the roof. And that is the greatest threat to African elephants today. So the reason behind that is populations expanding. The African population is set to double by 2050. So communities are moving into wild spaces, and unfortunately when you move into a ancient elephant migratory path or an elephant corridor, sadly conflict is inevitable. So that's what I'm working on now. My work's shifted very much from anti-poaching to human elephant coexistence.
And what does that look like? What are you doing in that space?
Do you know, I'm doing some really exciting work in that space. I've partnered with an NGO in Tanzania and looking to partner with further NGOs as well on in this space. So in a nutshell, elephants are scared of bees. So we're using beehive fences to line the boundaries of subsistence farmland and elephant corridors. So the bees keep the elephants out of the farmers' crops. The bees pollinate the crops. The local women, often the wives of the farmers, process the honey, sell it to local safari lodges, and then with the profits, they're growing organic vegetables and selling them to the community. And in one of the sites where we've got beehive fences, human elephant conflict incidences have dropped by a staggering 91% since the beehives have been installed.
That's amazing. And also
Isn't it?
like beehives as well. Like it just sounds like amazing. How did that idea even come about?
The founder of Save the Elephants, Ian Douglas Hamilton, he was the one that discovered elephants had an aversion to bees. He then passed that knowledge on to an incredible lady called Dr. Lucy King. And she did a PhD, I think, at Oxford University 20 years ago and really dug deep into the whole beehive fence to be used in human elephant coexistence strategies. And now that's her whole life. She's now in charge of the coexistence program at Save the Elephants, and many other more grassroots organizations have taken this on and are working in particular hotspot areas in Africa and in Asia. It works a little bit differently in Asia. Elephants aren't as scared of the bees. The monsoons play a part in trying to keep the bees in the hives. And I don't think the Asian bees are as angry as the East African honeybee.
Because it just feels like, especially when you're initially explaining it, it feels like it's a really win-win-win for everybody. Like, is there any negative? Is there any downside?
It is an incredible win-win-win-win, absolutely. And what I love about it is it's like nature's own solution. You know, it's I'm doing a talk next month at South by Southwest London entitled Wild Innovation. So in a world of AI and digital, you know, this feels very much nature's own. Of course, there are downsides. You know, you've got to have the community buy-in. The communities in these hotspot areas have got to be fully invested in this as a solution. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. So obviously, some areas are more successful than others. I think that's just across the board in life. And as I mentioned, there's downfalls of it in Asia compared to Africa.
You mentioned before about how your definition of adventure has changed. And, you have been in the world of adventure for so many years, and your different climbing Mount Everest and skydiving and racing 1,000 kilometers off Mongolia on horseback. You've done this whole wide variety of different adventurous pursuits and challenges. How has that definition changed? What does adventure mean to you now, sort of, 10 years on from when we last spoke?
Yeah, so for me, adventure now, and it is definitely a different kind of adventure, is spending a huge amount of time on the front line with all female and mixed anti-poaching teams. And, you know, life is volatile, it's unpredictable. It's a pretty scary place to be. Generally, I'm out with armed rangers. I'll be the only one that's unarmed. Some of the women that I'm patrolling with, they don't have an armed response behind them. They are the armed response. So when we're sitting out in the pitch darkness for a whole night waiting for poachers' torchlights, you know, when you see those torchlights, you know that we're going in. So, you know, it's a pretty scary place to be. I've been in all sorts of situations where we've set up ambushes, we've arrested poachers. Some of those have been children. I've been out with an all-female team in South Africa where another male ranger team were out, and they weren't happy that a white woman was out there with the women, with the female rangers. So they had to hide me in a shipping container for the night. All sorts of things that you wouldn't necessarily foresee, you know, in that way. And then interacting with wildlife itself, you know, when we're out in the middle of nowhere, just dropped out there for a week with rations. One of the rangers would stay back at the camp armed in case the poachers tried to destroy the camp. And then we'd do a great big loop around the camp, maybe a 4 or 5 hour patrol in a loop, just to see, you know, what signs of poachers were out there and what wildlife was out there. And sometimes you'd come across like an elephant and her calf, extremely dangerous. And it got me thinking, Sarah, like, you know, at times there was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. But then I started thinking, for these women who are highly skilled, highly trained, it must have been a massive responsibility as well for them having me out there. And they tried to get me to blend in by wearing their uniform because I just stood out a mile in the bush because being white. And they said, you know, the poachers as well as the rangers are so skilled at reading that landscape. You know, for me, I don't have those skills like they do. It's like reading a newspaper for them. the tracks on the ground, all these clues and signs that most of us would just miss. And they also told me like the poachers would be able to know that I was with them just by smelling the shampoo I'd used or the body wash I'd used. They'd be able to pick up those scents from a long, long way away. So I tell people when I'm doing my talks that patrolling on the front line in Africa makes climbing Everest look like child's play.
How did you get involved in World Female Ranger Week?
Yeah, so I created World Female Ranger Week in 2021, and it's just gone bigger and bigger every year. We've reached over 500 million people now. I'm now working with over 6,000 female wildlife rangers all over the world. And we've got government support. Last year and this year, we're doing a live event in Zambia, which is hugely exciting, bringing 100 female rangers together in the Kafue National Park for skills, training, workshops. Last year, I joked that we were like a girl band. We had 90 female rangers last year, and just the energy and the noise when we turned up at schools and all the women came in and did like role plays in front of all the children, reenacting scenes as if one was a poacher, etc. Really powerful stuff. But, they're singing, they're dancing. It was just incredible. And then on the last day, there was over 1,000 people congregated. We were on national TV. We had politicians, male politicians there giving talks about the importance of women in these roles. And so many of the villagers came out, so many children were there. And the women came up to me afterwards and said, we've never been celebrated in this way. They just looked like rock stars. We did a 3-kilometer patrol through this community, and you could just see the awe with which the kids were looking at these women, total role models. It was incredible. And incredible that I've started that for me, for me to see that as something that I started 6 years ago was unbelievable.
I always love it when there's an idea and how that idea has progressed, but also being able to quantify and to be able to show the number of people that you've connected with, how many female rangers are there involved in it. And for people who are thinking, well, why does it matter if women are involved? Like, why women? What would you say?
So, quick story. The founder of the Black Mambas in South Africa, so the Black Mambas are the world's first all-female anti-poaching team. And they're who I reached out to when I was doing my master's 13 years ago. And they said, come on out. And I've spent a lot of time with them over the years. And their founder said back in 2012, 2013, they were losing so many elephants and rhinos in the Kruger National Park and the Greater Kruger that they were just hitting their head against a brick wall. And that's when he came up with this brilliant idea to go into the local communities and invite the women to come forward and try out as rangers. So that was 13 years ago. We've now got 13 years of data to say why women are proving to be so successful in these roles. So there's a few reasons behind that. UN research says that women put 80% of their income back into their families. So the ripple effect of employing local women has meant now a lot of those women are the breadwinners. They've brought land, they've built houses, their kids are in school. Some of these ladies have got degrees. They've got access to better healthcare. So that ripple effect doesn't just benefit them and their families, is benefiting the communities at large. Women have also, I love this stat. This just blows my mind. So women are proving to be way less corruptible than men. In the 13 years since the Black Mambas have been operational, not one has ever failed a lie detector, which is just phenomenal, isn't it? Like that just speaks volumes. And also, Sarah, women are using the power of conversation to go into the local communities, into their homes. That's where the poachers might live, or they might be related to them. And they're using this power of conversation to really ease local tensions and build and strengthen community relationships. So I think all of those nurturing qualities that women bring to the table have proven totally invaluable in the conservation space.
With the World Female Ranger Week, is it the same week every year? And what happens in that week?
Yeah, so it's the same week, June 23rd to the 30th. It is an online campaign. So I say we, is pretty much just me. I'm a one woman band for the most part, apart from my board of trustees, of course. Um, so a lot of the teams that I'm working with around the world that have access to the internet, they just jump on it for that week, and in the build up to that week, sharing stories online about the female rangers that are in their organizations. It's not only about women as well, it's massively about men getting involved. Male rangers showing support to their female colleagues is really developed over the last few years. So it's very visual with my design background. I designed this toolkit so all the teams can interact. I do it all in Canva so they can put their photos in and their videos, and it's all got a really uniform feel to it. The kind of the template and the logo, etc. And then they populate it with their stories. And for me, it's about amplifying the voices of female rangers in the global media. So we are live on TV, on radio, on podcasts, in print media, digital media. I mean, the media just absolutely lap up these stories about these incredible women. And it's also grown beyond just rangers. So it's called World Female Ranger Week, but ranger is an umbrella term. So it's more like women in conservation. So I'm working with scientists, with academics, with helicopter pilots, with veterinarians, lots of travel tourism guides. And these are all supporting roles to the women that are on the front line. So ranger really is a very broad term.
When I was in Australia a couple of years, maybe like was it 2024? I can't remember, but I met one of my patrons and supporters actually, is an Australian called Amanda Dudgeon,
She's one of
Dung.
my ambassadors.
Yes. And she shared her story on the Tough Girl podcast. She did this incredible year-long expedition around and sort of across Oceania. And we ended up walking the Great Ocean Walk together, which is in southern Australia, a beautiful, like maybe like 100-mile trek, which was incredible. This is so incredibly inspiring, especially around the role models and women's stories and getting them out there. That's something that I 100%, just get behind and support and encourage. I think women's voices are so, so powerful. I suppose for you to think forward, what do you want to happen? What are the goals over the next 5 to 10 years? What are the ambitions? What do you want to see?
At the minute, less than 11% of the global ranger workforce is female. And that statistic has been the same since I started working in this field. And that's not to say that number hasn't gone up, but there's just not the research, or there wasn't the research out there, not accurate research of how many female rangers are operational. So I've partnered with Amanda Dudgeon and the International Ranger Federation. She's their Oceania representative. We're just trying to figure out who are these women and where are they and what impact, what are they doing out there? What are they protecting? And there hasn't been any formal studies done on this. So it's pretty exciting. I'm seeing a huge amount there's a very sliding scale. You've got your very well funded teams that have a huge amount of media coverage. But on the other end of the scale, you've got women that nobody knows about. And I only know about them because they reach out to me and say, we want to be part of your campaign. But a lot of these ladies are literally strapping their kids on their back and venturing into the forest or into the jungle, taking conservation into their own hands, mostly out of necessity, but also because they're passionate about the land and the wildlife. So I guess for me, it's about telling those stories, really trying to get those untold stories out there. Also, as well as it being about advocacy, it's about connecting donors and their money to the right projects on the front line, but also supporting projects. So I have this wonderful expression. I didn't come up with it, but I use it all the time. And that is conservation without funding is just conversation. So it's very important that the money, which if there's plenty of money out there, makes it to the right places. And it's all about measuring impact. If you can't measure it, you don't really know. So for me, it's hugely important to be able to account for where all this money's going and what it's being spent on and the impact it's making. So I guess for me, Sarah, it's an ongoing, it's a passion. I do this all voluntary. I don't make any money out of my charity, even though it takes a huge amount of my time. I make my money from speaking. So I go all over the world speaking to corporates, speaking at conferences, and where it's pretty amazing really is Everest gets me booked, skydiving Everest gets me booked. But once I'm in the door and I'm talking, my main subject is risk and leadership. But once I'm in that door, a natural part of my talk is about female rangers, it's about elephants. And when it goes really well, the corporates are like, how can we help? So if I was trying to get talks off the back of elephants and female rangers, I don't think I'd be getting into the corporate spaces that I am getting into. So for me, it's a bit of a dream, really, because it means I get paid, but I'm also talking about my charity and the charity's benefiting from that as well.
It's another win-win-win, which is great because it's
Yeah.
you've had these incredible experiences and you're able to leverage them into your speaking and to use the hook, skydiving off Everest, like what an incredible hook, and then getting in there and continue to talk about your passions and your interests, which are still sort of adventure related, but then to actually raise awareness and to also get the financial funding or the money or the sponsorship or the donations coming in to help support the incredible work that these women are doing all around the world who are not getting enough recognition for what it is that they are doing and what they are achieving.
Yeah.
You also wear another hat. You are one busy lady. Um, you mentioned at the beginning about sustainable tourism, and I think now more than ever that is so important. So I'd love for you to share more about sustainable tourism, what you're doing in that space.
Through building incredible relationships with female rangers and ranger teams over the last 13 years, I've really built these relationships on trust, and they've now allowed me to bring very small groups, so 6 people and me, to the front line to get fully immersed with these ranger teams. So this isn't safaris, this is way beyond safari. This is going to places that very few tourists would have the opportunity to experience this. So the phrase that I've come up with to describe my trips is experiential philanthropy. So it's about seeing exactly where your money is being spent, and also with the aim of the people that I'm taking on these trips to, carry on as donors supporting these projects. So I'm running 3 trips this year, one to the Black Mambas in South Africa in November, one to Kenya to the Mara Elephant Project in November, and a newer trip is Slovenia, where we'll be hiking hut to hut with a female ranger. So again, bringing in the female conservation angle here. I'm hugely excited about it. I tried to partner with other tour operators, but just too much money was being lost on the middleman. So I thought, let's just do it myself to ensure I can get as much money back to the conservation projects as possible. So it kind of works hand in hand with my charity. All the charitable money goes through How Many Elephants and out to our partners on the ground. So I'm really excited about it, Sarah. I think it's a real different spin on a traditional safari where you're quite passive. And this is about getting fully involved. And it's safe, it's not like some of the ranger teams where I'm being on ambushes and things, I'm not taking people into those environments. Obviously, there's an element of anyone being out in the bush in Africa. There's an element of adventure to it. But the teams that I'm visiting on these trips, it's just incredibly impactful, amazing experiences that I know a lot of people want to experience. So I'm excited.
How does it work with regards to you and working and speaking? Are you just sort of traveling all the time, or do you have sort of a bit of structure to your year, whether it's like 1 month in Africa, a month sort of doing talking gigs, another month, on the travel aspects, doing your own personal thing? Like, how do you make it work for you and your lifestyle, or is it very much more sort of like just sort of flexible?
Totally transient. There's no structure. I mean, obviously some like World Female Ranger Week happens the same week every year, as I said earlier. So that's a structure in itself, but every year is different in terms of the adventures I'm doing, the trips I'm leading. I'm just about to make quite a big life change and move into a camper van. So I'm much more immersed in conservation projects. I'm sort of planning loosely to drive to New Zealand. I've got a pretty cool tiny home on wheels that I picked up last week, and I'm quite excited about that. Just from like I said, from an immersion point of view, not being one removed for a lot of the time, looking at the screen of a laptop, actually being in and amongst it. So, and then obviously the talks. I say obviously, it's not obvious. The talks, I never know where they're going to be. It could be in America, as you know yourself, the lives that we live as women in adventure, or anyone in adventure. You don't really know what's coming up. So a lot of it's dictated about where the talks are or events that I'm involved with, where they are, and is there female rangers near that? That will dictate whether I go and spend time with a team near that talk. So yeah, absolutely no structure, pretty much.
If this isn't too personal a question, are you still married? And are you doing this with your husband?
Great.
Or
I am still married, yes. My husband works as a helicopter pilot in Abu Dhabi. So he works 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off, or at the minute, he's on a slightly longer rotation. So he comes and joins me when he has time off. We've been together 26 years. It works for us. It wouldn't work for a lot of people. But yeah, some years I might not see him more than 4 months. So we don't have children. I don't think it would work if we had kids, because I think one of us would be solo parenting. But, and I think when you're in a relationship, there'd possibly be a bit of resentment if one or the other was always away. So yeah, we have huge times apart, away from each other, but I'm so used to that now. That's just normal. I think he'd drive me up the wall if he was around all the time.
I think that's a bit of a win-win. Like, you get to still be in, like, a supportive relationship, supportive partnership, but you can still do the things that you love. And even with the camper van idea as such, well, he can just fly to meet you wherever you're going to be, and like, and
Yep.
then travel with you for a bit, and it's easy to travel. So is this is still just an idea that you're thinking, but what would that route look like? Would it be like through Europe, and then down and around through Africa, like do a full circuit of Africa, and then, I don't know, like Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, to
Probably.
be honest, and there's female rangers in Saudi Arabia, so that's definitely be a place I'd love to get out to. At the minute, again, very little structure to it, but I'm doing the Arctic Spine next February, the Montane Arctic Spine. No woman's ever finished this race. It's going to be a crazy adventure because I've never done a polar adventure. And so it's 290 miles in about 8.5 days, pulling a sled. So I'm doing that in a team, which will be way better than doing it on my own.
A full women team or a mixed team?
We'll be 2 women in the team. So I've joined she's an ultra runner. She's a fantastic, gritty, crazy chick. So I think she'll be fantastic to partner for this. So that will dictate the next few months. I'll go to Europe. I'm either going to go to Swedish Lapland, which is where the race is, or go to Switzerland and just be out training on the skis, doing the cross country skiing, just getting fit, getting the muscles fit. Because I've never really done much cross country skiing, so it's probably going to be a bit of a wake up call for the bod.
But I love it because you've obviously, you've done big physical challenges before and you've thrown yourself into the deep end, whether that's kayaking and facing that fear of water to taking on something like this. So what's the name of your partner who you're doing it with?
Mary Lou Alemany. Yeah, she's done some of the Marathon des Sables, and I think she's attempted the Winter Spine. She's normally a podium finisher in her age group. She's 54, I'm 47, and I just think, I think it sends out a great message to women out there as well, that you don't have to be in your 20s and 30s to be taking on these big endurance challenges. So I'm really hoping to secure some sponsorship around this, because I think it's such a brilliant age demographic. So a story that's just popped into my head is a lady, I think she was 54, I might have that bit wrong, but she ran this year the London Marathon in 2 hours 35. She's not sponsored, and there was hardly any media coverage around it. And then a woman posted it on LinkedIn, and it was a hugely popular post about how women of this age should be getting that attention and be celebrated. And I think women of our age are, of mine and Mary Lou's age, are brilliant, for endurance. I think that's when you've grown up a little bit and you're quite methodical and you've got experience under your belt. So I'm really hoping we're going to be the first women to finish this race, but there's some quite strong competition lining up for this race.
The thing that sometimes I struggle with, and I don't know, because my world is so focused on women and adventure, 98% of my feed is just, because I remember seeing that post, is like women doing badass things all the time, of all ages, because I'm constantly like liking and screenshotting, thinking, oh, I must speak to her, I must get her on the podcast, she's amazing. And so almost become like, I don't even feel as though that's like that out of the ordinary. I think that's like, yeah, like, why wouldn't you do that? Of course, like, women are still so strong and fit, and they can just get out there and absolutely smash it and go after these things. And again, it's just so important that women are seen to be doing them. And it's not like, life is downhill after 40 or after menopause. It's like, no, come on. There are so many badass women out there who are just like saying yes to races and to opportunities and to figuring out the rest along the way, which I think is so honestly so empowering. So it's 293 miles. Is this the Kungsleden Trail? Kungsleden.
Yeah.
Amazing. Wow. And have you had much winter experience, much cold weather experience?
Only through mountaineering. So 47 days on Everest and climbed other big mountains. So I didn't have to do, but Mary Lou, my partner, she had to go and do a 3-day training course run by the organisers in Sweden. And they said that alone wasn't enough for her to do the full 292-mile race. She could have done the half race or the quarter race. But because we've partnered up, because I've got lots of experience in the cold, they're really happy for us to do it together. But yeah, I mean, it's, for me, Sarah, even though it's going to be super hard, I know it's going to be really tough, it's well supported. One of the first questions I asked the organizer is, hey, is there like, rescue if you needed it? what's the support crews look like? Is there a helicopter if you needed it? And he's like, yes, yes, yes to all the above. I'm used to doing adventures where there's nothing. You're literally out there on your own. So even though it's going to be super hard, and I'm not saying it won't be, because it absolutely will be, it's well supported, which is huge, like makes you feel a bit better.
What's your approach going to be for training? Will you work with a coach? Will you figure out your own training plan? What's that going to look like for you?
So I'm using AI for my training plan. And the reason I do that is I've built such a robust folder on ChatGPT now over the last 2 years. So I put in all my training, I put in any, say, blood tests I've had, any medical things, any what vitamins I take, my weight, all of these things I've just been putting in over the last 2 years. And so I feel like it's quite personalized now to me and what I do. So that's how I'm going to train. And then Mary Lou she has a coach. She has a running coach. So this isn't really a running race at all, but it's organized by Montaigne, who do the summer and the winter spine. So that's how I do my training. And then if I have any questions, I definitely reach out to professionals and experts. But for the basic, ChatGPT's pretty bang on. It's exactly what I was thinking it was going to come back with, is what it's come back with. Most of it is time on your feet, doing big days back to back, tired legs, tired brain, go out again. So if I'm in my camper van, I figured I can just get fully immersed in that environment for 2 to 3 months and then just fly out to talks, make some more money.
Yeah.
Fill up the bank account again and then go for it all over again. So that's the loose plan. But as you've realised, there isn't a huge structure at the minute.
I think that's important to talk about because I like hearing the variety because some people they need like if there's a structure and then they miss one day, it can just derail all their plans. They have a bit of a wobble and then just like throw everything into the bin. And so actually having like an amazing structure doesn't help some people. So I think it's good for other people to share like, yeah, having this flexibility, you know what the main things are that you've got to cover off, how much you've got to do. I've I've also for my training for the GR5, I've also helped with ChatGPT as well, like to really personalize it to me and literally talk through even like how many hours I'm working, what I'm doing for recovery and like what it looks like. And it's to be fair, it's been pretty spot on. I do, although my one caveat was being is I use ChatGPT to help plan my like the first couple of weeks of my GR10 adventure across the Pyrenees. And the day before I went to go, I was just going through and I finally had like time to like sit down and, go through everything. And I was going through and I was like, yeah, the first couple of days look great. Then I got to like day 12 and I was like, "Gosh, that seems a long distance. The next one, ChatGPT had given me a 70-mile day. And, and I was thinking, might be a
Brilliant.
tad optimistic. So it's
Yeah.
not always 100%, but I think as long if you take things with a pinch of salt as well and just be like sensible with it, I think it can be like an incredible resource. Holly, this is sounding very exciting. All this incredible work that you're doing for How Many Elephants and World Female Ranger Week, but also I love the fact that you're managing to balance, your talks with also your future dreams, whether it is getting in that camper van or heading off to the Arctic to do the Arctic spine. Just amazing. How can people connect with you? How can they follow along with your journey? Where are you most active on social media?
My website, hollybudge.com. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn under my name. My charity, howmanyelephants.org. Same on social media at How Many Elephants. World Female Ranger Week.org. And then my travel business, wildlifepositivetravel.com. I'm excited for what's to come. I think you've sometimes just got to step out of what's comfortable and make that change. And I think that's what's pushing me right now, because I love where I live at the minute, but I just think I'm just a little bit too comfortable here. So I'm just putting myself into more uncomfortable situations with going to different places in the camper and getting out on the front line and taking people out there. And I think for me anyway, I Have to keep setting those big goals.
Holly, thank you for sharing all of those links. I'm going to put the links into the show notes so that people can connect and can follow along. But I would love for you to share final words of advice, final words of wisdom for other women out there who also want to, get outside their comfort zone, take on a new challenge, do something extraordinary or out of the ordinary or something different for them. Apart from just do it, what would you like to share?
What I talk about in my talks is this whole idea of think tall, start small. So yes, set those big audacious goals, but get prepared, get the preparation in. I meet so many people that turn up for big adventures and they haven't put that time in beforehand. I met people on Everest who had never stepped foot on snow before going to the summit. And you just think, don't be that person. So for me, it's very much getting as mentally strong and physically strong as I can prior to these big adventures and these big goals. Win or learn, I love that expression. I think that's no adventure or no path to these big audacious goals is linear. And I think that's where the gold lies, in the twists and the turns and the bends. And my final one is smile through the pain. It works. A positive mindset is a resilient mindset. The lady I'm doing the Arctic race with, she's an ultra runner and she's tattooed smile through the pain. She did it about 3 years ago onto the inside of her wrist. And she said, on some of the races she's done, when she's got nothing left to give, she's like, yeah, that's it. And it works. So they are my 3 bits of advice.
Holly, thank you so much for coming back on the Tough Girl Podcast Extra. It's been incredible to catch up with you. And thank you so much for sharing everything that's been going on. And I love those final words of advice, think tall, start small, win or learn, and smile through the pain.
Thank you, Sarah. And well done to you. I met you when you just started Tough Girl, and here you are years and years later. So thank you to you too.
Hey, tribe, how are you all doing? I hope you are doing super well. It is Sarah, the host of the Tough Girl Podcast and the founder of Tough Girl Challenges. So because I have been super organized and super efficient, you are able to listen to these incredible episodes of the Tough Girl Podcast while I am currently out adventuring. So I am out on the GR5, which is a European hiking trail, which runs from the Hook of Holland all the way down to Nice. I am sharing daily updates on Instagram at Tough Girl Challenges and on my Facebook page. So please do go and give me a follow if you want to be kept up to date with the journey. But because I have been organised, episodes are scheduled to come out every Tuesday while I'm away. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. It's always amazing to catch up with previous guests of the Tough Girl Podcast, and that's what the Tough Girl Podcast Extra is. So if there is an extra in the title, what that means is that there is a previous episode of the Tough Girl Podcast that we've already done with this guest. And what I really like to do is to go back and listen, because I think you can just learn so much from sort of the first episode, especially when it was, like in this case, about 6 years ago. How have people changed? How have they grown and developed? What other adventures and challenges have they been on? What setbacks and what failures have they overcome? What direction has their life taken? And I think it just really highlights how people can change and can grow. So it was just honestly so lovely to catch up with Holly and hear more about the incredible work that she is doing with, especially her charity, with the elephants. Just absolutely phenomenal. So everything that we have talked about today will be available in the show notes at toughgirlchallenges.com. So please do go and give the website a visit. Have a little poodle. Is that the right word? Have a little noodle? No, that's not the right word either. Have a little mooch, that's probably a better word. Have a little mooch around the website. You can check out some of our previous guests. The Tough Girl Podcast is celebrating its 11th anniversary. Well, it celebrated it on the 11th anniversary on the 4th of August this year, which is pretty amazing. And there's over 850 podcast episodes, 850 women sharing their stories of adventure and physical challenges, 800 women providing different advice, different tips, different stories to motivate and inspire you. So I really do hope hope it gives you that oomph that you need to take your first step into the world of adventure and physical challenges. I'd love to hear from you. You know, if you're thinking of doing a challenge and you need someone just to say, yes, do it, sign up for it, send me a message because I will come back to you saying, yes, do it, sign up for it. If you'd like to support the work that I do, then you can visit Patreon, patreon.com/toughgirlpodcast, and come and join the other 114 individuals who are supporting the Tough Girl mission to increase the amount of female role models in the media, especially in relation to adventure and physical challenges. All that's left for me to say is, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, give it your all, give it 110%, get after it, go for it, believe in yourself because I believe in you. Take care, lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.